Hello everyone, and welcome back to a War Thunder video, believe it or not. You probably didn't expect to see this again because it's pretty common knowledge now that I have not been playing this game for a while. Don't really enjoy where the game's at myself, and when I came back and tried to play it a little bit for the War Thunder Fake Tanks video, I don't know, it wasn't like it was the worst thing I'd ever experienced, but it just didn't draw me back in. However, there are a lot of you who still enjoy the game and enjoy content on the game. And being someone who has a significant amount of experience with this game, I don't even want to think about how many hours I've spent playing it. I figured, hey, I can do commentary videos on people's games. That way we can have the opportunity to show off some cool, unique games, as well as me not having to play said unique games. Today, we're going to be looking at a replay that I got from Mike Goes Boom. I made a little, I asked a couple creators in one of the Discords that we're in, I asked them, hey, does anybody have a replay they want to send my way? I want to try out this video. And Mike sent me 4. So I'll have to take a look at the other ones and we'll see if any of the other ones I want to feature. But this one was the first one that I looked at, and I quite liked it. It has a... The Stug 3G is only a part of it as he gets his first kill there on the M4 Sherman 105. And after this, he's going to be in the KV-1B. And I figured it would be a really good video for you guys because it kind of showcases both the strengths and weaknesses of the KV-1B. But that's getting a little ahead of ourselves. Before we get... Oh, there he takes out the KV-1E. I was surprised that shot penned. That front plate there can be tricky with the double layering, but I think he clipped it just at the very edge. But getting a little ahead of myself there with the KV-1B shenanigans. The most pressing thing on your guys' mind is probably going to be the fact that there are markers turned on right now, and that's just the War Thunder replay system being garbage. There's no way for me to disable those without disabling all markers, so it's either we have enemy markers so you guys can see that he's actually shooting an enemy, or we have friendly markers turned off so you can't tell who's friendly or enemy, especially with how War Thunder is nowadays with, as you saw, Panzer IVs on both teams and Shermans on both teams, with the Chinese Sherman burning next to him. It is just a shit show, to say the least. So I'm going to leave the markers on. If you guys really don't like them, I can turn them off, but it might make the commentary a little bit tricky. So just keep in mind that he can't see these tanks that we're seeing unless he gets actually line of sight on the vehicle itself. He can't just see the name tag moving, and it'll be very clear of that because, as you can see right now, like T-34 driving in the open over there, but he doesn't see it. But doing some good work here with the Stug, cleaning up 4 people and getting a cap. The Stug 3, honestly, especially the Stug 3G, I feel like it's a slept-on vehicle. Although it is a casemate, this thing is really strong, especially where it's at currently. I remember playing this thing, and you could easily clean up 10 people in a match with basically no trouble. But here you can see he's kind of having a little bit of trouble finding these guys. He finds the Panzer IV right as he's about to get a shot, though. He gets killed. Now, I'm going to do a real quick cut here because the replay system's a little messy, but we'll get right back into this once he gets into his next vehicle. Alright, and we're back, and he is in the KV-1B now. You may have seen a little bit of that. The replay system gets really, really funky whenever somebody dies, and it basically opens up every single window again. I don't know why. All they need to do is just make one update to make the replay system better, and this is a gripe that you will hear a lot of creators make. I think Pandramoto is one of probably the ones that would have the most issue with this because he uses it for a lot of his cinematics, and I think I've seen him in the past make complaints about it. It's awful. It is so clunky. You can't rewind without completely restarting the replay. It's not a fun experience. But nonetheless, now we're in the KV-1B, probably one of, if not the most seal clubby vehicles in the game, although there's plenty of German vehicles that can fit into that category. But here we're going to see what I would say is probably one of the biggest weaknesses of this tank, and that is the gun. You're never gonna pen a Sherman like that, because I believe this tank only gets around 90 millimeters of pen, and it used to be so insane. Like, you would decimate everything you faced, but with some of the Shermans getting moved around and them getting a little bit better pen, the KV-1B, I'm not gonna say it is, it's not even useful anymore, unplayable. No, it's nothing like that, but it's nowhere near as insane as it used to be, where you could just drive out in the open and no one could pen you. There's a more of a risk nowadays, with especially around the gun. I might show a little thing up on the screen right now where you pen this thing. Essentially, you just shoot on the cheeks, because that's the thinnest armor, unless you have a German 75, and then you just go through the lower plate. But the KV-1B doesn't usually face German tanks, unless Italy's on the other team, because everyone gets Panzer IVs, everyone gets Shermans. It's just copy-paste everywhere nowadays. But as you can see, Mike does manage to clean up the Sherman. You really have to get around the side with this thing. I don't think you can really pen the front, except for on the cast hull Shermans, where you can shoot the little cheeks on the hull, like right where it curves, because it's only like 30 millimeters or something like that. It's a lot thinner than the rest of the front. But yeah, biggest weakness of this tank is definitely the penetration. The armor, on the other hand, is basically impenetrable, as he's already proven, especially against that T-34. You could almost tell he was kind of ignoring it, trying to go for the Sherman, because it's the much bigger threat, and that T-34 is never going to pen. But that, in some ways, comes back to bite the KV-1B, because if you run into something like, especially a KV Zist 5, which I don't remember exactly what BR it's at. I think it's 4.7 from last what I remember, 4.3, 4.7, somewhere around there. You literally can't pen it with this tank. I think you might be able to pen on like a tiny little sliver underneath the back of the turret, but it's all intents and purposes. You run into one of those in this thing, you might as well just give up and just accept your fate, or just drive to somewhere else on the map. Back to the replay, though. I've been waffling on well over enough. He has just capped the A point, which puts him on 2 caps, and he's currently on 2 kills, or yeah, 2 kills, 6 kills. I can read, and he's going to be heading over to the B point, which is where he's going to basically spend the entire rest of this replay. But you'll see why I'm featuring this once he gets there, and why it's a bit of seal clubbing for sure. So making his way over there, KV-1B, relatively quick for a heavy tank. Another really good thing about this vehicle. And he's moving up along, and he's going to catch sight of this T-34 right about now. Takes the shot a little bit later than I probably would have, but you know, waiting for the tank to come to a complete stop is not a bad idea, especially when you don't have a stabilizer. So he's able to immobilize the T-34 regardless and set him on fire. The Puma kind of coming in. That T-34, I don't even know what he was looking at. I thought he was looking at him in the first time I watched this, but nope, looking complete wrong direction. So Mike claims his 7th kill on that guy. Coming up onto the other T-34. Meanwhile, this Puma is furiously trying to steal the kills away, and that just ends up getting him dead. Right there, as the T-34 wisely picks the easier target there, knowing he's probably going to die anyways, I would assume. And now we have 3 tanks in this graveyard. But don't worry, those numbers are going to grow exponentially quickly, and most of them are not going to be Mike's teammate. Oh wait, 4, I forgot about that guy. I don't know what happened to that Panzer IV. I'm guessing he ducked in there to like get away from a bomb or maybe an artillery strike, and he ended up dying, becoming a monument. I will say, spoiler, I haven't actually played on this map before. I think I used this map one time, maybe before a rework or something, for some, I think I used it for the Panther F video on my main channel for some cinematics, and that is the entirety of my experience with this map, so I'm not super familiar with this layout, but Mike seems to be, because he's doing fairly well. So I asked him afterwards about why he sits here for so long, and it's because he was waiting for his teammates to push up on C and they were heavily outnumbered. Makes sense. But I was developing a twitch watching this, because I always played very aggressively, so sitting here when I could go back to A or go over to C and help my team cap that, it's not something I would tend to do, but it's understandable in this situation because he's the only one here. If he leaves this cap, they will take it, as we see probably the biggest threat to him right now come up in the form of that Stug 3. That is probably one of the few tanks on the enemy team that can just melt through his armor like butter, as you saw earlier when he was in his Stug 3G and killed the KV-1E in a single shot. But after a barrel shot, which I don't think he was really going for, maybe he was, that Stug is no longer a threat and another victim of the graveyard. So now we see a T-34 trying to make his way through the fog, or smoke rather, of, oh yeah, I forgot the Stug pop smoke, like every single German player ever, just, oh, something shot at me, I have to just ink all over the place. So Mike backs off wisely, not knowing where that T-34 is going to be, catches that Sherman through that little corner plate like I was talking about. These Russian shells go through really, really well on that little plate. And instead of pushing all at once, you can tell that the enemy team just kind of goes at him one at a time. I mean, granted, the T-34 and the Sherman were kind of going at the same time, but this other T-34 waited way too long, and that is Mike's 12th kill and another victim of the graveyard. And now he just has to sit here and essentially wait. His team has pushed up and taken C. He's getting a little bit of love tapping from the plane, but I don't think it's an actual gun that's going to be able to pen him. And now we have a couple more victims coming to the slaughter in the form of this M4 Sherman and a Chaffee. So a good shot into the Sherman there, gets his fuel tank, lights him on fire, and wounds his engine a little bit. Mike angles the turret pretty heavily, bounces the Sherman easily, and the Sherman backs off, bonk, right into the ammo rack. Or actually right into the crew compartment, and then somehow sets off the ammo rack. Dead either way. So he gets the Chaffee next, just catching his engine. Poor little Chaffee didn't stand a chance. And once he gets his track up, push forward, and a shot into the side. And he's dead too. And that is 14 kills. So at this point, we see the first of his team who decide to show up. I'm not really sure why this Panzer IV even bothers to come over here. He's going to do approximately nothing. He drives in here, surveys the graveyard, and probably thinks, this guy seems like he's got it, and then he just kind of leaves in a couple seconds. But I'm going to cut to the next engagement that Mike gets into when some M10s show up, and I will see you then, because otherwise we're just going to be sitting here for a couple minutes while he waits. Alright, here they are, an M10 starting to close in on the left. Now, I don't think Mike can see him, but there is a chance that he might have heard him. War Thunder's sound system can be very spotty because the sound guy likes to change everything on a whim, but it does seem like Mike has heard him because you can see he's kind of looking to his side, and the M10 finally peeks, he catches the glimpse of the movement and is looking over there. M10 wisely backs off, probably realizing, oh, that's a KV-1B, I don't want to be driving out in front of him. And Mike wisely doesn't really want to be pushing out in front of an M10 because the M10's gun, although not quite as good as the Stugs, is still very, very dangerous to the KV-1B compared to all these short guns that he's been facing. So we can see over on our screen another M10 starting to push up, but this M10 is a little bit less intelligent than the other in terms of his aggressiveness, and he decides that he's going to just drive straight at the KV-1, who is angled. Yeah, that ended very well for him. And then the other M10, I think he was trying to probably capitalize on the KV-1 having fired, but KV-1B's reload, especially with a good crew, which I'm guessing Mike has, not gonna take him that long. And with his 16th kill under his belt, that about wraps it up for this game of him and the KV-1B. They will unfortunately lose this after Mike gets killed in one of the few ways a KV-1B can, which is by a bomb coming from a close air support vehicle, which is very fun and engaging gameplay. I really miss getting one-shot bombed by people who just come in and tap their spacebar. I've been missing that. But his team is unfortunately unable to take C, and the A point is or not the A point, he's on the B point. The B point is eventually lost following the bomb. So yeah, that about wraps it up for this replay. I hope you guys did enjoy. If you have your own replay you'd like to submit, there is a link to my Discord in the description. You can join there, and you can submit it in the hashtag submissions chat. You scroll down, it should be in like the YouTube section. If you need to find where it is, just ask someone in the Discord and they'll be happy to show you, I'm sure. But let me know what you think of videos like this. If you enjoyed this and you'd like to see more, let me know, because I am happy to make more, and I have a couple more submissions already lined up that we can do. So let me know what you thought in the comments down below. Subscribe if you liked it if you liked it, and I'll see you in the next one.